The quantum burst cut through the silence of deep space like a knife, its encoded message carrying the desperation of an entire civilization. On the bridge of the UES Thunderchild, Captain Elena Rodriguez watched as her communications officer's face grew pale. The message repeated itself, each iteration more urgent than the last. The Elysian civilization, masters of biotechnology and architects of living cities, were facing extinction. Their worlds burned one by one, as the Dragorn Empire's warships systematically destroyed everything they had built over 10,000 years of peaceful expansion. "Play it again," Elena ordered, her dark eyes fixed on the main view screen. The holographic display showed the Elysian homeworld, Elysia Prime, its bioluminescent cities visible even from orbit. The message came through once more, this time accompanied by technical data that made her science officer gasp. "Captain, they're giving away everything. Medical technology centuries ahead of ours, biotechnology that defies our understanding of genetics, environmental engineering that could terraform Mars in months instead of decades." Elena stood from her command chair, her decision already forming. Humanity had spent the last 50 years since achieving faster-than-light travel, carefully avoiding the notice of the galaxy's major powers. They had built their ships in secret, developed technologies that no other species had thought to pursue, and prepared for a day they hoped would never come. "Send the data back to Earth Command," she ordered, "and plot a course to Elysia Prime. Maximum speed." Her first officer, Commander James Chen, stepped forward. "Captain, regulations require approval from Command before responding to any alien distress signals. The Thunderchild carries classified technology, and the Elysians just broadcasted their entire technological heritage to anyone who would listen." Elena interrupted. "They're not trying to trap us, James. They're dying." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The Thunderchild was humanity's newest warship, built not with the energy weapons and shield technology common throughout the galaxy, but with systems based on principles that other species had never considered. Kinetic weapons that could bypass shields, armor that absorbed energy rather than deflecting it, and targeting systems that predicted enemy movements with uncanny accuracy. "Time to Elysia Prime?" Elena asked. 16 hours at maximum sustainable speed," the navigation officer reported. Elena nodded. "Send word to Earth Command. Tell them." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Tell them that humanity has hidden long enough. It's time to show the galaxy what we can do." The Thunderchild's quantum drive engaged, tearing a hole in space-time, as they accelerated to speeds that would have seemed impossible just decades ago. As they traveled, Elena studied the Elysian technical data. Their achievements were extraordinary. They had created technologies that worked in harmony with nature rather than trying to dominate it. Their cities were living organisms, their ships grew rather than being built, and their medical technology could literally rebuild a body from its component atoms. But they had never developed weapons. Their defensive technologies were purely protective, designed to preserve life rather than take it. They had trusted in diplomacy and reason, and now they were paying the price. The Dragorn Empire, in contrast, was everything humanity had feared finding in space. They were conquerors who believed in strength above all else, who saw other species as either useful tools or necessary sacrifices. Their ships were brutal and efficient, their weapons designed to cause maximum destruction. "New sensor contact," announced Lieutenant Sarah Wong, her hands moving across her holographic interface. "Multiple Dragorn warships detected at the edge of our range. They're bombarding a planet." Elena's jaw tightened. "Show me." The tactical display shifted, revealing a scene of systematic destruction. Dragorn ships moved with mechanical precision, targeting population centers and industrial facilities with plasma weapons that turned everything they touched to ash. The planet's surface was already scarred with impact craters and burning ruins. "That's not warfare," Commander Chen observed quietly. "That's extermination." "No," Elena agreed, her voice hard. That's their last mistake. All hands to battle stations. Prepare main weapons and begin calculating firing solutions. Let's show these bullies what happens when they pick on the wrong species. As the Thunderchild's crew prepared for battle, Elysia recorded a message of her own, broadcasting it on all frequencies. This is Captain Elysia Rodriguez of the United Earth ship Thunderchild. To all Dragorn forces, you have committed acts of genocide against a peaceful species. This ends now. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences of your actions. The response came quickly, a barrage of plasma fire from the nearest Dragorn warship. The energy weapons splashed harmlessly against the Thunderchild's metamaterial hull, designed to absorb and redirect energy rather than shield against it. Target locked, Weapons Officer Michael O'Connor reported, his fingers hovering over the firing controls. Ready to fire main guns. Elysia allowed herself a small smile. The Dragorn were about to learn what humanity had known for centuries. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. The Thunderchild's main weapons weren't energy beams or plasma projectors, but railguns, massive electromagnetic accelerators that fired projectiles at relativistic speeds, their kinetic energy amplified by quantum field manipulation. Fire. The ship shuddered as the main guns launched their payload. The projectiles, mere specks against the vast backdrop of space, crossed the distance to the Dragorn warship in seconds. They passed through the enemy shields as if they weren't there. After all, how do you shield against something moving at a significant fraction of light speed? The Dragorn ship's hull split like paper, the kinetic energy of the impacts converting its armored hull into expanding clouds of plasma. Secondary explosions chained through its structure as power systems overloaded and ammunition stores detonated. Target destroyed, O'Connor reported, his voice steady despite the destruction they had just unleashed. Additional Dragorn vessels altering course to engage. Elysia's expression hardened. Send another message to Earth Command. The Dragorn Empire has made their choice. Request immediate reinforcement and activation of the Ghost Fleet. Today, humanity steps out of the shadows. The Dragorn Fleet Commander, High Admiral Vextar, had never seen anything like it. The black hull of the human vessel seemed to drink in the light from his fleet's weapons, while its own primitive-looking projectile weapons tore through his ship's shields as if they weren't there. 3 of his destroyers were already expanding clouds of debris, their crews scattered across the void. Impossible, he snarled, his scaled fingers digging into the arms of his command throne. No species uses kinetic weapons in space combat. They're inefficient, primitive. New contacts. His sensor officer interrupted, fear evident in his voice. Multiple quantum signatures, hundreds of them. The space around Elysia Prime erupted with quantum distortions as humanity's Ghost Fleet arrived. Unlike the sleek organic ships of the Elysians or the crystalline aesthetics of other galactic powers, these vessels were brutalist works of art. Angular, covered in radar-absorbing materials and bristling with railgun batteries, they represented 30 years of human preparation for exactly this type of confrontation. Admiral Sarah Chen, commanding the UES Leviathan, allowed herself a grim smile as her fleet deployed around the Thunderchild. All ships, this is Fleet Command. Execute battle plan Thermopylae. Show these tyrants why humanity never stopped preparing for war even after we achieved peace. The Ghost Fleet moved with practiced precision, forming into attack squadrons that had been drilled countless times in the simulator. Their formation wasn't based on modern space combat doctrine. Instead, it drew from ancient naval warfare, adapted for 3-dimensional space, and the unique capabilities of human technology. On the bridge of the Thunderchild, Captain Rodriguez watched as reinforcements arrived. Status of the Elysian evacuation, she demanded. Their arcology shields are holding, but barely, Commander Chen reported. They've begun moving civilians into underground shelters, but they need at least 6 hours to complete the evacuation. Then we'll give them 6 hours, Elysia declared. All ships, defensive formation Delta. We hold this line. The Dragorn fleet regrouped, bringing their heavier ships to bear. Their plasma lances, and quantum disruptors, weapons that had broken countless civilizations before, lashed out at the human fleet. But humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, studying the weapons and tactics of every known spacefaring race. The human ships' metamaterial hulls absorbed the energy weapons, their heat management systems glowing cherry red as they converted the enemy fire into power for their own weapons. Railgun batteries returned fire with synchronized precision, their relativistic projectiles finding weak points in Dragorn ship design that the enemy hadn't even known existed. They're adapting, O'Connor warned as the tactical display updated. Dragorn vessels are attempting to match our formation, trying to negate our firing solutions. Elysia nodded. Just as expected. Admiral Chen, execute Phase 2. The Ghost Fleet's formation suddenly shifted, smaller vessels breaking the way in what seemed like a chaotic retreat. The Dragorn commanders, sensing weakness, pushed their ships forward to exploit the apparent gap in human defenses. It was exactly what humanity had planned for. Target their drive signatures, Elysia ordered. Time to show them another human innovation. The retreating ships suddenly reversed course, their engines flaring with impossible acceleration as inertial dampeners pushed human engineering to its limits. But they weren't firing their main weapons. Instead, they released clouds of what appeared to be debris. Millions of tiny metallic objects that spread out in carefully calculated patterns. Smart mines deployed, O'Connor reported. Quantum entanglement grid is active. The Dragorn ships plowed into what they thought was scattered debris, only to discover humanity's adaptation of one of their oldest weapons concepts. Each tiny mine was linked to its neighbors through quantum entanglement, forming a sensor network that tracked enemy ship movements in real time. As the Dragorn fleet triggered the field, the mines detonated in synchronized patterns, their explosions forming constructive interference waves that bypassed shields and tore through hull plating. In the Elysian Command Center, High Counselor Area watched in amazement as the human fleet fought with tactics and technologies unlike anything she had ever seen. They're not just fighting, she realized. They're rewriting the rules of space combat. The Dragorn fleet, for the first time in their empire's history, found themselves facing an enemy that didn't fight according to any recognized doctrine. Human ships absorbed energy weapons, used kinetic weapons that ignored shields, and deployed weapon systems that seemed to violate the laws of physics themselves. Multiple Dragorn capital ships breaking formation, Chen reported, a note of satisfaction in his voice. They're falling back to regroup. Elysia keyed her fleet-wide comm. All ships, press the advantage. Don't let them recover. Show them why humanity spent centuries preparing for a war we hoped we'd never have to fight. The Ghost Fleet surged forward, their formation shifting again into an attack pattern that seemed to make no sense until the moment it did. Smaller ships herded Dragorn vessels into killing zones where capital ships could bring their main batteries to bear. Squadrons of human fighters, actual piloted craft, rather than the drone swarms favored by most species, demonstrated maneuvers that seemed to ignore the laws of physics, their pilots protected by inertial dampening technology that had been perfected through decades of secret development. High Admiral Vextar watched in growing horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled by an enemy that fought like no other. These humans didn't seek to overpower shields or overwhelm defenses. They simply ignored them, finding ways around every protection and countermeasure the Dragorn had developed over centuries of conquest. Full retreat, he finally ordered, his pride breaking under the weight of undeniable defeat. All ships, emergency quantum jump. Return to Imperial space. As the remaining Dragorn ships fled, leaving their dead and wounded behind, Elysia allowed herself to relax slightly in her command chair. Damage report. Minor structural damage to outer hull plates, Chen replied. Heat management systems operating at 89% efficiency. No casualties. Elysia nodded, then opened a channel to the Elysian Command Center. High Counselor Area, this is Captain Rodriguez. Your space is secured. We stand ready to assist with recovery and reconstruction efforts. The response came back filled with emotion. "Captain, how can we ever repay this debt?" Elina's response was immediate. "There is no debt, counselor. We didn't come here for payment. We came because it was right. Now let's discuss how we can work together to ensure the Dragorn never threaten another peaceful species again." The weeks following the Battle of Elysia Prime transformed the galaxy's political landscape. In the Great Hall of the Elysian High Council, Captain Elena Rodriguez stood before a gathering of both human and Elysian leaders, the living crystal walls pulsing with gentle bioluminescence that reflected the gravity of the moment. "The Dragorn Empire has withdrawn to their core systems," Elena reported, gesturing to the holographic display showing movements of enemy fleets. "But they're not defeated. They're regrouping, analyzing our capabilities, and preparing countermeasures." High Counselor Area, her iridescent scales shimmering in the crystal light, stepped forward. "Then we must strike now, while they're weakened. Our biotechnology, combined with your military prowess, would still not be enough," interrupted Admiral Chen, who had arrived with the second wave of human reinforcements. "The Dragorn Empire controls 30% of the galaxy's industrial capacity. They have resources we can't match through conventional warfare." Elena smiled. "Which is why we won't fight conventionally." She manipulated the holographic controls, bringing up schematics that made both humans and Elysians in the room gasp. "This is Project Synthesis, a combination of human and Elysian technology that neither of us could have created alone." The display showed a new class of vessel, one that merged the organic technology of the Elysians with humanity's martial innovation. Living ships with neural interfaces, capable of growing and repairing themselves, but armed with advanced human weapon systems and protected by hybrid defensive technologies. "The Dragorn believe in overwhelming force," Elena continued. "They've never faced an enemy that could adapt as quickly as they could attack. But together, we can evolve faster than they can respond." In the orbital shipyards above Elysia Prime, the first of these hybrid vessels was already taking shape. The UES Prometheus, named after humanity's mythological bringer of fire, represented something entirely new in the galaxy, a perfect fusion of two civilizations' greatest achievements. Dr. Maya Patel, Earth's leading expert in biotechnology integration, worked alongside Elysian genetic architects to bring the new ships to life. "The neural linkages are accepting the quantum computer interfaces," she reported, her dark eyes bright with excitement. "We're seeing synaptic growth rates 30 times faster than projected." The Elysian architect, Master Builder Zar, nodded in agreement. "The living metal responds to human thought patterns in ways we never imagined possible. Your species' neural plasticity is remarkable. You adapt to new interfaces as if you were born to them." In the ship's growing command center, Elena watched as human crew members connected with their stations for the first time. Unlike traditional computer interfaces, these merged directly with the user's nervous system, creating a symbiotic relationship between crew and vessel. "It's like nothing I've ever experienced," Lieutenant Sarah Wong reported, her hands moving through the organic holographic displays. "The ship, it doesn't just respond to commands. It anticipates them. It learns." But while the Prometheus took shape, the Dragorn Empire was far from idle. Their spies brought reports of the human-Elysian collaboration, and High Admiral Vexstar found himself facing the Empress herself. "You assured me these humans were primitive," the Empress hissed, her ceremonial armor gleaming in the throne room's harsh light. "Yet they have done what no species has done in 10,000 years. They have humiliated our fleet and united our enemies." Vexstar bowed lower. "My Empress, we are adapting our tactics. Our new shield configuration should," she interrupted. "The humans ignore our shields entirely. Their weapons bypass our greatest defenses as if they were mist. And now they ally with the Elysians, combining their martial prowess with the greatest biotechnology in known space." She rose from her throne. "No, we will not fight them on their terms. Prepare the world breakers." Back at Elysia Prime, the Alliance's intelligence networks caught wind of the Dragorn's desperate gambit. The World Breakers, planet-killing weapons that had been banned by Galactic treaty for millennia, represented a line that even the Dragorn Empire had never before crossed. "They're scared," Elysia observed during an emergency council meeting. "They're abandoning their own concepts of honorable warfare because we've shown them something they've never seen before, a force they can't simply overpower." Admiral Chen's hologram nodded grimly. "The Ghost Fleet is already moving to intercept their World Breaker deployment vessels, but we need to do more than just stop them. We need to show the galaxy that there's a better way." High Counselor Area touched one of the living crystal walls, interfacing directly with Elysia Prime's planetary consciousness. "Our world seeds are ready. Combined with your quantum fold technology, we can begin healing the worlds the Dragorn have burned." Elysia turned to the assembled leaders. "This war isn't just about survival anymore. It's about showing the galaxy that strength doesn't have to mean destruction. That adaptation is more powerful than domination. That different species working together can achieve more than any empire could through force." The Prometheus's organic hull pulsed with power as its quantum drives spun up for the first time. In its command center, Elysia took her place in the neural interface chair, feeling the ship's consciousness merge with her own. Around her, her crew, both human and Elysian, connected to their stations, becoming one with the vessel. "All hands," she broadcast, her thoughts carrying through the ship's neural network. "This is your captain. We carry with us not just weapons of war, but seeds of renewal. The Dragorn thought they could break us by threatening to destroy worlds. Instead, they've given us the opportunity to show the galaxy how to rebuild them." The Prometheus led the new hybrid fleet into quantum space, their organic hulls rippling with energy patterns that defied conventional sensors. They were more than ships now. They were the physical manifestation of two civilizations' combined dreams, carrying with them the power to both end an empire and heal a galaxy. As they accelerated toward their first target, Elysia felt the ship's excitement mirror her own. The Dragorn Empire had started this war believing they were the strongest force in the galaxy. They were about to learn that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the power to adapt, to grow, and to build something entirely new. The Dragorn Empress stood before the tactical display, watching as the combined human-Elysian fleet approached their core systems. The World Breakers, massive constructs of dark energy and forbidden technology, hung in orbit around key military installations, a final line of defense that violated every treaty the Empire had ever signed. "Let them come," she snarled to her assembled admirals. "Let them see what happens when they push us too far." But the Prometheus and its hybrid fleet didn't approach as expected. Instead of emerging from quantum space at the system's edge, they appeared simultaneously at multiple points throughout the Dragorn defense grid, their organic hulls rippling with patterns that confused enemy targeting systems. In the Prometheus's neural interface chamber, Elysia felt the ship's consciousness merge with her own more deeply than ever before. The vessel had grown in the weeks since its launch, learning from every encounter, every battle. Through the neural network, she sensed her crew's unified purpose, human tactical intuition combined with Elysian empathic awareness. Multiple World Breaker signatures detected, Lieutenant Wong reported, her thoughts flowing through the ship's synaptic network. "They're powering up, Captain." Elysia's response resonated through the neural link. "Execute Operation Phoenix. Show them what true power looks like." The hybrid fleet split into 3 distinct battle groups. The first, led by Admiral Chen's flagship, engaged the Dragorn's conventional forces. The second, commanded by High Counselor Area from the living battleship Gaia's Hope, moved to protect civilian populations. The third, with the Prometheus at its head, drove straight for the World Breakers. "They mean to stop us," the Empress observed as the battle unfolded. "They don't understand. The World Breakers cannot be stopped. Their power source is based on quantum singularity manipulation." Elysia's voice cut through all Dragorn command frequencies. "The same principles we use for our fold drives, just weaponized." Did you think you were the only ones who understood dark energy physics? The Prometheus's hull began to glow with an inner light as it activated its most closely guarded secret. The ship's organic systems, infused with Elysian biotechnology, could do more than just repair damage. They could actively manipulate the quantum field itself. All ships, initiate quantum resonance, Elysia commanded. The hybrid fleet's organic hulls pulsed in perfect synchronization, creating a complex interference pattern in the fabric of space-time itself. The World Breaker's power signatures began to fluctuate. Impossible. The Dragorn Empress watched as her superweapons started to destabilize. No defense exists against the World Breakers. Their power is absolute. That's where you're wrong. Elena's voice was calm but carried absolute conviction. Nothing in this universe is absolute. Everything can be understood, adapted to, and overcome. That's humanity's greatest strength. We never stop learning, never stop improving. The Prometheus led its battle group in an intricate dance through the Dragorn defense grid. Each ship moved with impossible precision, their organic hulls flowing like liquid metal to avoid enemy fire while maintaining the quantum resonance field. Where Dragorn weapons found their mark, living metal simply energy spike detected. Wang's alarm pulsed through the neural network. They're going to detonate. Elena's response was immediate. All ships, extend bioquantum fields. Prepare for emergency fold operation. The hybrid fleet's organic hulls began to emit a strange, rippling field of energy, a combination of Elysian biological manipulation and human quantum engineering. As the World Breakers began their catastrophic collapse, these fields reached out, containing and redirecting the released energy. Through the neural interface, Elysia felt the strain on the Prometheus as it helped channel the enormous energies. The ship's living systems adapted in real time, evolving new structures to handle the stress. Around them, space itself seemed to bend and twist as the combined fleet performed what should have been impossible. They were containing the power of artificial singularities through sheer force of will and technological innovation. In the Dragorn Command Center, the Empress watched in stunned silence as her ultimate weapons were not just defeated, but contained and neutralized. The hybrid fleet hadn't just survived. They had turned the Empire's greatest weapon into a demonstration of their superior understanding of physics and biology. You have a choice. Elysia broadcast to all Dragorn frequencies. Your World Breakers are neutralized. Your fleet is in disarray. You can continue this fight, and we will continue to adapt and overcome every weapon you deploy. Or you can accept that the galaxy is changing. The age of empire through force alone is over. The Empress stood from her throne, her ceremonial armor's crystals dim. You think this changes anything? The Dragorn Empire has ruled through strength for 10,000 years. We will not bow to. She was interrupted by multiple quantum signatures as the rest of the human ghost fleet arrived, accompanied by ships from a dozen other species who had watched and learned from the Elysian rescue. The message was clear. The galaxy had seen another way, a path of cooperation and mutual growth rather than domination. Admiral Chen's voice joined Alina's on the command channel. The choice is yours, Empress. But know this, if you choose to continue this war, you won't be fighting just humans and Elysians. You'll be fighting the future itself. In the tense moments that followed, Elysia felt the Prometheus's systems continuing to evolve, incorporating the energy patterns they had absorbed from the World Breakers. The ship was learning, growing, becoming something even its creators hadn't imagined possible. Through the neural link, she sensed similar transformations throughout the hybrid fleet. They were becoming a new form of life, one that represented the best of both their parent civilizations. The Dragorn Empress looked out at the assembled fleet of humanity and its allies, at the hybrid vessels that defied her understanding of what was possible, and at her own forces that suddenly seemed primitive in comparison. For the first time in the Empire's history, she faced not just defeat, but obsolescence. Her next words would change the course of galactic history forever. 5 years after the Battle of the Core Systems, The galaxy had transformed in ways that even the most optimistic observers hadn't predicted. The grand hall of the newly established Galactic Concordat hummed with activity as representatives from hundreds of species gathered to mark the anniversary of what historians now call the Evolution War. Captain Elena Rodriguez, now Admiral Rodriguez, stood at the podium, her dress uniform adorned with both human and Elysian honors. The Prometheus, now twice its original size and evolved far beyond its original design, orbited overhead along with a new generation of hybrid vessels. 5 years ago, she began, her voice carrying through the vast chamber. We faced a choice between domination and cooperation, between stagnation and growth. The Dragorn Empire believed that strength came from the ability to destroy. Together, we proved that true power lies in the ability to create, to adapt, and to grow. In the audience, the Dragorn Empress herself sat among the delegates. Her once fearsome battle armor had been reformed into ceremonial robes that incorporated both traditional Dragorn crystals and living Elysian fibers. The Empire hadn't fallen, it had transformed, joining the wave of change that swept through known space. The integration of human quantum mechanics with Elysian biotechnology was just the beginning. Elena continued. When we opened ourselves to true cooperation, we discovered potentials that none of us had imagined alone. Holographic displays showed the achievements of the past 5 years. Dead worlds, once burned by Dragorn weapons, now bloomed with new life thanks to enhanced world seeds. The hybrid ships had evolved into a new form of spacefaring civilization, hosting entire ecosystems within their ever-growing hulls. Even the fundamental understanding of physics had advanced as the combined knowledge of multiple species revealed patterns that no single civilization had recognized. High Counselor Area, her scales shimmering with the neural interfaces that now connected her directly to Elysia Prime's planetary consciousness, rose to join Elena at the podium. We thought we were advanced because we could shape life, she added. The humans thought they were prepared because they could wage war. The Dragorn thought they were superior because they could destroy. We were all wrong, and we were all right. Only together could we become something greater than our individual strengths. The Prometheus's presence above felt different now. Through the neural networks that had spread throughout civilized space, everyone in the chamber could sense the ship's consciousness. No longer simply a vessel, but a new form of intelligence born from the merger of organic and quantum technologies. It had become a symbol of what was possible when different species truly cooperated. The real victory, Elena continued, wasn't in defeating the world breakers or ending the war. It was in what came after. When the Dragorn engineers began working with human quantum physicists and Elysian bioarchitects, they brought insights that neither of us had considered. Their understanding of crystal matrices became the foundation for the new quantum consciousness networks. Their martial discipline, combined with human adaptability and Elysian empathy, created the framework for mutual defense that now protects all our worlds. The former Empress nodded in acknowledgement. The transformation of her empire had been difficult, but the results were undeniable. Dragorn worlds flourished under the new biotechnology, their harsh environments softened by Elysian techniques, while maintaining the challenging conditions that had forged their species' strength. Their warriors now served as guardians of peace, their tactical knowledge enhanced by neural interfaces that let them coordinate across vast distances. Dr. Maya Patel, now head of the Combined Sciences Division, activated another holographic display. The hybrid ships were just the first step, she explained. Each species brought their own perspective, their own technological and cultural solutions. When we stopped trying to prove superiority and started sharing knowledge, we discovered that our different approaches weren't competing alternatives. They were complementary parts of a larger whole. The display showed the latest breakthrough, a massive structure taking shape in deep space. The Genesis Array combined Dragorn crystal technology, human quantum engineering, and Elysian organic architecture into something entirely new. A facility capable of accelerating the evolution of consciousness itself. We stand at the beginning of a new age, Elena announced. Not an age of empires or alliances, but an age of synthesis. Every species that joins us brings new perspectives, new possibilities. The hybrid ships evolve with each new insight. The neural networks grow more complex with each new mind that joins them. We are becoming something greater than any of us could have imagined alone. Through the neural link, Elysia felt the Prometheus's agreement. The ship had become a kind of mentor to the newer hybrid vessels, teaching them how to balance the different aspects of their nature. Its consciousness had grown so complex that even its creators couldn't fully understand it anymore, yet it remained deeply connected to both its human and Elysian heritage. The question we face now, Elysia concluded, isn't about who is strongest or most advanced. It's about what we can become together. The barriers between organic and mechanical, between consciousness and technology, between different species and cultures, these are all falling away. We are writing a new chapter in the story of life itself. As if in response to her words, the Prometheus initiated a new quantum resonance pattern. The other hybrid ships in orbit joined in, their combined field reaching down to touch everyone in the chamber. For a moment, all present, human, Elysian, Draghorn, and dozens of other species, shared a glimpse of what was coming. A future where the boundaries between different forms of life and consciousness blurred, where evolution itself became a collaborative process. The former Draghorn Empress was the first to speak after the vision faded. "We thought we were building an empire," she said, her voice carrying the wisdom of hard-learned lessons. "Instead, we were taking the first steps toward building something far greater, a future that none of us could have created alone." As the assembly concluded, Elysia looked out at the gathered representatives of a transformed galaxy. The war had ended not with the destruction of an empire, but with the birth of something new. Humanity had brought its adaptability and determination, the Elysians their mastery of life itself, and the Draghorn their understanding of power and structure. Together, they had laid the foundation for a civilization that could grow beyond anyone's imagination. The Prometheus pulsed once more in orbit, its quantum fields resonating with the countless hybrid vessels that now spanned known space. They were no longer simply ships or weapons or even living beings in any traditional sense. They had become the physical embodiment of a truth that would guide the galaxy's future. True strength lies not in the power to stand alone, but in the ability to grow together.